one complaint that I often hear singers throw out regarding vocal music, especially contemporary vocal music, is that it's not written for voice well, either because of how the vowels are set or the contour of the vocal line. It's not written for voice well. And these comments, more often than not, are based in reality. Beethoven is the poster child for this sort of vocal writing, and that it's very difficult. It's hard to approach. A lot of technical finesse is required to do it well. And a lot can also be said, of course, of, your more modernist atonal music, right? But I always get the sense that this comment comes from a fixed mindset, a place of, oh, it's the fault of the music that I cannot execute it well, that I can't make it sound good. And instead of having a growth mindset towards it, which is that, yes, there are some difficulties, and here are those difficulties and ways that I can navigate those. And I just feel like when you compare singers to instrumentalists, like, it's just night and day, their attitudes when met with a difficult piece of music. So, for example, the Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto, super famous. You know it, everyone knows it, right? Standard piece of repertoire for every violinist. It's like just so basic. It's like eating your veggies doing it, right? Well, when Tchaikovsky wrote it, it wasn't until 20 years after he had written the piece that it was performed. And that's because the violinist he had written it for at the time flat out said, like, no, this is too difficult. This piece is impossible, right? And so just imagine that, like, your piece goes from being just like considered to be so impossible, so technically challenging, how could anyone ever do this, to now it's like everyone's doing it, and without even a doubt in their minds that it's possible, right? So you can really trace a history with instrumental music over time of, as it's gotten more complicated, the musicians have improved also, have risen up to the challenge and have improved their baseline for technical skill to then meet these more technical, challenging pieces. Now for singers, this same progression of complicated repertoire, difficult repertoire has been the case, similar to instrumental music, but I get the sense that this baseline technique level that everyone's at has not similarly risen to the level of instrumentalists, right? We'll say, of course, the Italians were masters at vocal setting, right? They knew how to do the right vowels for the right notes and the right contour of line. It just fits so beautifully, right? That it wasn't even something that they codified. It was just so innate to the style of writing and the language that without a second thought, it was just perfect for voice, right? And as we get into the 20th century, and as people begin experimenting more with the musical idioms, right, we see more complicated vocal writing. And rather than say in our vocal pedagogy, like, here's how you approach these difficult things, it's more so like, whoa, you gotta watch out for that modern crap. You're gonna blow your chords out singing all those leaps, all those jagged lines. How are you gonna be able to do that, right? But the reality is, you can get some good performance experience doing all the new stuff. All right, there are still composers who are writing music right now, and they need performers, right? And some of their music is definitely not going to be singer friendly, right? But if you can cultivate those relationships with those composers, if you can sing the difficult stuff, they'll hire you again in the future, right? And maybe one of them becomes one of these Eric Whitacre types and hits it off, and then you're that composer's number one muse for all their songs. Phone's falling out here. Then you become their number one singer, right? Because you can do it. You have a handle on those technically difficult aspects of the vocal writing. And then once you've mastered those things, like, yeah, I could sing, Berg, Schoenberg, I can sing Milton Babbitt, I can do all this stuff, right? Then how much easier will it be to then sing, the good bel canto stuff, right? I mean, I'm not going to say that it just transfers like one to the other, like seamlessly, right? There are some more there are qualities of each that are unique to those idioms, right? But the point still stands, right? If you really mastered those outliner, very technically difficult aspects of singing, right, then to some extent simpler things are just going to be easier, right? Doing your Puccini and your Verdi, where it is written for voice well, is just going to be so much easier than singing the more modern stuff, right? But if you're ever given a piece of music, right, where the vocal writing is not friendly, I mean, Beethoven, right? If you have to sing Beethoven's Fidelio or whatever, or something modern, don't hide behind the excuse of it's not written well for voice to then account for why you can't do it well. Still give it your best shot. Still try your best. Still give it the time it deserves. And it might take more time because of those technical challenges. But don't hide behind the excuse that's not written well for voice, okay? Your job as an artist is to realize the artistic goal and vision of the composer in that time and to do the best to your musical ability.